Hello, and welcome back to Bricking It. So, here's our minifig space that we're leaving on this mock. The rest of it is going to be made up of background. Now, in this mock, I'm using 3 techniques to get the effect I want. 2 that I've never used before, and 1 that I use all the time. So, the first one we're going to look at is the forced perspective. And what I'm building up here is the floor to give us our forced perspective of a corridor leading away from us. So this is going to be one of the hallways completely lined with the shelves full of prophecies. So as you can see, this steps up by a plate, sometimes 2 at each stage, and this shows us the length of our floor that's going to fill up the corridor. So just making this up over 2x12, popping on some reinforcements so I can put on these 12x3 wedge plates on either side, and that will give us the shape of our hallway. So it's starting to take shape. We're going to hold that in place with one of these tilt tables. It just sits at the back on here. So each step of the build has a pair of jumpers on it. Just putting in the last ones now. And these allow us to offset each of our rows of shelves by half a stud. The first set of shelves are furthest from us, just made up with 1 stud's worth of prophecy orbs, let's call them, and the next one closest to us has 2. Some of these shelves have less height in the lower levels, and that's just to help with the foreshortening effect and keep your viewpoint low so that it tends to climb higher as it gets closer to you. So each of these is raising up by 1 stud level on each. We're now at 4 studs. Here we are at 5, so a lot of the times we've got a brick and 2 plates. Just get those all on to their jumpers, and they're all offset by half a stud's width. The front shelves are ones we're going to see the whole of, mainly made up of these snot bricks with studs on all sides. We've just attached these pearlescent studs to. Then we've built that up with various cylinders and studs and round tiles, various shades of blue, clear and pearlescent. And that gives us our basic corridor effect. So already looking quite good. I'm going to fill up some of the space in the back with these trans blue panels. They're just going to take up some space and keep the blue sort of coloration behind the shelves. And these aren't particularly stable because they're just held up on 1 stud of jumper. So we're just going to use these stabilising pieces to hold them still. Need to put jumpers on top of the panels just to keep that offset. As you can see, they're much more stable than the unsupported shelves. We're only going to do this with the front 2, because the back ones actually get covered by the roof of the corridor a bit later and can't be supported. They generally don't need it because being a little shorter, they're not quite as unstable. I'm going to start building up the outer box. This will be completed, and ideally I want to do it all in black, but I went through every single black brick I use. And as I mainly build Hogwarts Castle, there's not a lot of black brick in my collection. Here we go at the end of the corridor. We're just going to put one of these small doorways. And that quick archway around that. That's really giving us that forced perspective look down the corridor now. Got some more details at the end of the corridor. Got some of these micro Death Eaters that I got on the calendar from the year before last now, 2 years ago. I put one of them on a couple of studs so it looks like he's leaving a trail of smoke as he takes off. That's our hallway full of Death Eaters. To hot the hallway, we're just going to use a series of black plates. Fortunately, still missing a part. I want another one of these tilt tables in black, but it hasn't arrived, so going to have to use a brown one as a standby. It does ruin the look of the thing a little bit, but ultimately you get the idea of what we're going for. So there is our corridor. By a trick of editing, I've now filled in the back of the box. And we can move on to the next phase. So we're here under my desk, just in the darkness. And I was just helping the glow in the dark bricks that I used get a bit of a charge. If you look, all of these shells are made out of reddish brown, but some of them appear very different colour to each other's. Let me give us a clue as to what bricks are going to be brittle brown. Might have to investigate that further. So there's my glow in the darks. I use them quite a lot. And I thought, since I've got all this extra space up here in the back of the build, why don't I make use of all of this area here? I've decided to do that with a lighting kit. I got this for Christmas many years ago. You can probably tell by the dead fly that's adhered itself to the outside of the box. Never used it because I was never really interested in lighting my bricks. Got a few blue LEDs. That's going to come in handy. Got a white one, various connectors and cables. And most useful to me at the moment is this AA cell battery box. So let's see if we can make use of these components. So never having been a fan of lighting on builds, never actually done this before, so I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. But it took less than a minute to make this very simple set of two LEDs and a battery box. And thankfully they work. Good. So we can just now install these in the build. Now install is a pretty fancy word for what I'm going to do. I'm just going to shove them generally down behind these trans blue panels and then just secure them with the bricks. In fact, I've got a little gap here. I don't even need to remove any bricks to pop it in. So it's a very simple layout. Let's see what effect this gives us. And that is largely inconclusive. I have no idea how this is going to look. We need to go somewhere darker. So we're back under the desk where I was testing my glow in the darks. And it's not too bad. Still needs to be darker. So I've come under the duvet in the bedroom. Now this should be dark enough to see what kind of lighting effect we're going to get. Turn off the camera. Didn't bother closing the curtains, but there's the glowy ones. Now let's see what our lights give us. It's not bad. It's a bit high. It's a bit localized. I think I need a couple more LEDs. So I've added two more at the bottom at the back to see if that gives us a better... Remember to close the curtain this time. See if we get a better spread of light. And yeah, I quite like that. We can actually see the Death Eaters this time, which is much more of an improvement. We get a couple of little localized patches of light, but it's a fairly good diffuse colour overall. It's quite an intense blue. I think I would have preferred it a bit paler. Well, that's our lights in now, so let's have a look at the minifigs that we're going to be adding to this scene. Got the battery box on the top, popped on a temporary set of book covers just so it can fit in with my display in general. Make sure the on-off switch is accessible. And I've added an extra little one just here at the front. Now I hate wires visible in displays, but hopefully you won't be able to see that tiny little bit that's poking through. So now that we've got this, let's add our minifigs to our scene. So first of all, Ginny Weasley. This minifig's outfit matches pretty well to the scene. We'll just pop her on. Next member of the DA that we're going to be involving is, of course, Luna Lovegood. So this costume does not exist as a minifigure, so she's using the Lily Potter body from the, I think it was Series 2 CMF, might have been Series 1. Add her into the scene. Next up is Ron. So we've got this torso on a couple of different versions of minifigures, but this is perfect for his Ministry of Magic outfit. I've just given him the spell wand to help sell the effect from that new light at the front of the build. Hermione, of course. Now we've got this minifig in untold sets and books. Fairly common figure, quite easy to pick up in her ministry costume. And next up it's Neville. So this is one of the Battle of Hogwarts minifigs that's been released for him. believe this one came in Dumbledore's office. Could have been the advent calendar, I really can't remember. I have both of them. The paler one possibly a better choice. Again, this blue stripy sweater, not an easy one to find a substitute for. This one with the silvery sweater though, much better face for Battle of Hogwarts Neville. So that's what I'm going to use this one for. And here in the Department of Mysteries, I'm going to use this one with a redder sweater. Pop them on the display. Last and probably least interesting of the minifigures is Harry Potter in his grey hoodie and red t-shirt. Again, a minifig we've seen in many sets before. So that's all our DA members in our scene, and the way I've set them up is to approximate this shot from the movie. There's someone else in that shot that you may have spotted in the background. There's a couple of Death Eaters. So I've got this one, not an official figure but representing Lucius Malfoy because it uses his head. All the other parts though are gathered from other sources. The torso is from a First Order officer, I believe. We can just add him into the scene, just facing off. That's one of the Death Eaters confronting our crew. So this is how I'm going to be displaying it. Let's have a look in the dark again. That new white LED at the front really does sell the wand light we wanted, lets us see our minifigs. Does throw the Death Eaters at the back really into dark shadow, but obviously the figures at the front are just silhouettes. I'm never going to be displaying this in total darkness. Just a bit of moody lighting will probably show this off to best effect. Oh, my glow-in-the-dark pieces. So there we go. That's the Hall of Prophecies MOC. First one in the new series where I regenerate all the MOCs on my shelves. Possibly looking to modularize some of the locations and make it a bit more like my Hogwarts build. So thank you very much for watching. Please do leave us a like. Let me know in the comments what you think of the build. And if you'd like to see more Wizarding World MOC builds, then please subscribe to Bricking It. Bye bye.